Transgender is a topic that you hear about almost on a daily basis. Many stand for the right of people that define themselves as transgender, and laws have been put in place to protect them to a point. It's been a long time coming and still has a long way to go. But what about in the 1990s? How about on New Year's Eve, 1993? Would any of these laws been good enough to save Brandon Teena? Hello and welcome. My name's Sean. I'm your host for these true crimes, murder, mystery, and myth. This one's going to be a rocky road. It's a hot topic. Transgender, gay rights. It is such a hot topic still to this day. And you hear about it almost daily, one way or another. And here in Nebraska, we have a lot of haters. You hear about it in the news even, at least weekly, some hate crime against somebody in that group. I know that since it is Pride Month, this is June, just in case you're watching it later on, this is being recorded in June. So it's Pride Month, and near where I live in Omaha, there is somebody going around stealing people's pride flags. Somebody put their flag back up, a new flag back up, and that same person came and started it on fire, attached to their house, and just didn't even care about the people that live in there because he hated their flag or what the flag stands for. As of this video, which is the 19th of Juneteenth, there have been 4 cases of pride flag destruction or theft just in the area around here in Omaha where I'm at. So that's really sad. You would think that people would be less close-minded in 2023, but I guess not. And to start off and everything, I'm purely heterosexual. It doesn't matter. I think it's called cis. I don't understand the terminologies or anything like that. I don't understand transgender very well, but that's me. But I don't care if that my next door neighbor wants to be transgender. I've known many gay people in my life. I've been friends with many. I've talked to many. I don't care. If they want to change, that's up to them. That's not my choice. It's kind of like religion. Just because you come knocking on my door to tell me about your religion doesn't mean I have to convert to it. And that's how I see sexuality. Just because 2 guys are kissing doesn't mean I have to go kiss a guy. And people don't see that anymore. They think that everyone has to believe what they want to believe. So I'm sorry I'm ranting too long, and it's one of those subjects that is close to my heart. So let me get started on Brandon Teena. Brandon Teena was born December 12th, 1972. Same year I was born. In Lincoln, Nebraska. He was born a trans man. Although Brandon was born female, he always felt like something wasn't right. He was often described as a tomboy and started to identify as a male in adolescence. He even started dating girls in high school. His mother refused to use his male identity and referred to him as her daughter. Brandon, on many occasions, described himself as intersex, which is a person that doesn't really fit the typical binary notions of male or female. To make it even worse, Brandon attended the Pius X High School and was noted as being socially awkward. He refused to conform to the Catholic school's dress code and would dress mostly masculine. His senior year, he attempted to enlist in the Army but failed the written entrance exam when he listed himself as male. In 1990, Brandon started to bind his breasts to try to pass off easier as male. In 1991, he started dating Heather. He was looking forward to find a place to live. His mother was not thrilled that and had his older sister spy on him to see if him and Heather were in a platonic or sexual relationship. In January of 1992, he had to undergo a psychiatric evaluation and was found to suffer from what they called severe sexual identity crisis. It was also found that he was a victim of sexual abuse from his uncle. His sister also was abused. He was placed in the Lancaster County Crisis Center and after release had to attend therapy sessions. His mother would attend these, so that wasn't very helpful, I don't think, to Brandon. The sessions only lasted about 2 weeks and then he quit going. People were saying that since he was still female, that he had to have been a lesbian, but Brandon believed that he was a man trapped in a woman's body. He didn't feel like he identified as a lesbian since he felt like he was a man. Even though he had not started treatments, he had plans of getting reassignment surgery in the future. Legal trouble in the Lincoln area for check and credit card fraud, Brandon moved to Falls City, Nebraska. It was 1993 and he wanted to go to a new place to start over where people did not know about his female counterpart. While there, he made friends with several people and moved in with Lisa Lambert outside the town of Humboldt, Nebraska. While living with Lisa, he met and started dating Alana Tisdale. This was also about the time that he became associated with his future killers, John Lauder and Thomas Nissen. The beginning of the end started December 19th, 1993, when Brandon was arrested for forging checks. Lana bailed him out, but when Lana picked him up, he was released from the female side of the jail. The damage had been done. Brandon had to come clean with Lana, saying that he was transgender. But he also informed her that he was pursuing a sex change operation. Lana didn't seem to be affected by this and continued to date Brandon. Though later, Lana said that this was not true and that she ended everything with him. The worst part of the whole thing is that Brandon's birth name was printed in the local paper, causing all of his acquaintances to know that he was born a female. Lauder and Nissen were furious about the deceiving behavior of Brandon, and on Christmas Eve they confronted him at a Christmas party. There, they forced Brandon to pull down his pants in front of all the party attendees. They made him expose his vulva. They also showed that he had a rolled up pair of socks in his pants, simulating male genitalia. Some of the people were forced to look, and I don't know what happened after that, but after midnight, so later in the evening after midnight, the two forced Brandon to go with them in a car. They drove down to the local meatpacking plant where they beat Brandon, repeatedly hitting him and making him get into the back seat of the car. There, they took turns sexually assaulting him. When they were done, they took Brandon back to Nissen's home and ordered him to take a shower. While in the bathroom, Brandon escaped through a window and ran to Lana's house. She convinced him to report the assault to the police, even though the guys threatened to silence him permanently if he reported them. Brandon went to the emergency room and they used a rape kit on him. This was later lost. He also went to Sheriff Charles Lau. But the sheriff was more concerned with Brandon's transgender status than the assault. Lau questions were rude and demanding to Brandon. I read the transcripts of the questioning, and I don't want to repeat them here. You can find them online, but it's ridiculous. Even when he asked about the sexual assault, he made the questions dehumanizing. And it was just really, really sad. Lau, along with his chief deputy, Olberding, I think that's how you pronounce it, went to the location that Brandon said that the attack happened. There they found a couple used condoms and the packages, an empty beer can, and a pair of rolled up socks. They went and tracked down Nissen and Lauder, but didn't arrest him. They said that they did not have enough evidence to do so. He also said that assuming that Brandon was lying about his gender, he could possibly be making up other things. He never fully felt that Brandon was assaulted, and maybe it was just some fun time gone wrong. Because awesome man. Even though they were not arrested, Lauder and Nissen plotted their next move. Once they decided on it, they searched for Brandon. On December 31st, around 1 a.m., Lauder and Nissen broke into Lisa Lampert's house, the farmhouse that was outside of Humboldt, Nebraska, and they found Lisa in bed and demanded to know where Brandon was. She wouldn't tell them. After searching, they found Brandon under a blanket at the foot of the bed. They asked who else was in the house, and Lisa said that Philip Devine was there too. Coincidentally, Devine was dating Lana's sister. Lauder shot Brandon, who fell onto the bed. He was still moving, so Nissen asked for the knife that was on Lauder's belt and stabbed him in the stomach. Nissen then picked up Lisa's baby and handed it to her. This is what's confusing. Then Lauder shot Lisa, but this didn't kill her. Then Nissen took the baby again and placed it back into the crib, and Lauder left the room to find Philip. He returned with Philip and immediately shot Lisa again, this time in the eye. Philip pled for his life, and Nissen said, hey, let's take him out to the living room, and they told him to sit down. And as soon as he sat down, Lauder shot him twice. Lauder went back into the bedroom and fired more shots to make sure everyone was dead. It was just horrific. I don't understand people like this, but Nissen suggested that they leave, so they drove back to Falls City. And when they were driving over the Nemaha River, they decided to toss the gun, the knife, and their gloves over the bridge to the river below. Once back in Falls City, they went to Nissen's home. They met up with Nissen's wife, Candy, and Lauder's girlfriend, Rhonda, and clean up. They told the girls that if they are ever asked by police or anyone, they were home at 1 in the morning, even though it was closer to 3. The only person to survive in the house was Lisa's 8-month-old son, who was left crying all night in the crib. The next morning, about 10 a.m., Lisa's mom stopped by the home and discovered that the horrors inside. The door was locked, so she had to bust it open. She heard the baby crying, so that's why she figured something was wrong. She grabbed the baby and quickly called the police. The sheriff and all them showed up, and since the sheriff's office already knew about the assault on Brandon by Lauder and Nissen, they were quick to arrest him for the murder, being prime suspects. It was found out later that a judge had previously signed a warrant for both of their arrests for the sexual assault. Loud claimed later that it was a paperwork mistake, that they never got it, hence the reason why the two were never arrested prior to the killings. Immediately after being arrested, finally, Nissen told the police that he watched Lauder shoot the 3 people. He told them where they dumped the weapons, and since it was winter, the river was frozen over, and the gun and knife were just easily to retrieve. They were just sitting right there on the ice. And of course, the knife had Lauder's name printed on it. Nissen's trial was first, and during the trial, Nissen accused Lauder of the murders. He even set up a deal to get only life in prison. He didn't want the death penalty. He also admitted to the sexual assault on December 25th. In the end, Nissen was sentenced to life in prison for being accessory to murder. Lauder, of course, denied all of Nissen's testimony, but the evidence was too strong against him. They quickly found him guilty of murder and sentenced him to death for each of the murders. Both men appealed their convictions. Nissen even went so far to recant his testimony in 2007. He stated that he was the only one to shoot and kill Brandon, and that Lauder had nothing to do with it. Lauder appealed in 2009, stating that since Nissen's new testimony, he needed to be retried. The Nebraska Supreme Court stated that even though the original testimony was altered a bit, they were both still involved in the murders, so the original sentence would stand. They even took it to the Supreme Court of the United States, and on January 18th, 2018, he was denied for a 3rd time by the Supreme Court. Besides the killers or killer, the only one living to witness the murders was an 8-month-old child. Some of the court officials stated that Lauder was purely convicted because of Nissen's testimony, though witnesses saw Lauder at a home where the gun was stolen from hours before the killings, and the knife did have his name on it. There was also the testimony of Lauder's girlfriend, Rhonda, who stated that he had gotten home around 3:30 a.m., but told her to tell the police that it was earlier if asked. This was very damaging for his alibi. In 1999, Brandon's mom, Joanne, sued Richardson County and Sheriff Lau for failing to prevent Brandon's death after he reported the assault crime. She won $80,000, but the judge reduced the amount by 86%, so she only got $17,360.97. But in 2001, The Supreme Court reversed this and reinstated the full amount, stating mental suffrage. They also included funeral costs and an additional $12,000 for wrongful death and emotional distress. Sheriff Lau was criticized for his attitude toward Brandon, yeah, and how he handled the questioning. He even referred to Brandon as it at one point. After his police work, he served as commissioner of Richardson County and then part of the community council before retiring to become a school bus driver. He refused to ever speak about his actions, and he even cussed out a reporter who contacted him. Also in 1999, Brandon was immortalized in the film Boys Don't Cry, starring Hilary Swank, who herself was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lana Tisdale, like I was saying before, was unhappy for how they portrayed her in the film and sued them. She thought that they portrayed her as dumb and redneckish. It was eventually settled for undisclosed amount. She stated that she never stayed with Brandon after finding out that he was transgender. Joanne was very upset by the movie because they kept calling Brandon by his male name and referring to him as him or he. It was not until 2013 when Joanne finally started to accept Brandon as a transgender. Brandon was buried in the Lincoln Memorial Cemetery. His tombstone is inscribed with his birth name and the wording daughter, sister, and friend. So, unfortunately, his mom never changed that, but that is the way it is. Brandon's death and that of Matthew Shepard's 5 years later aided in lobbying for hate crimes for sexuality. At the times of their death, Brandon was 21, Lisa was 24, and Philip was 22. It's so sad that people can't accept people for who they are, what they are, how they are, whatever. You know, people suffer all the time, whether it is gender identity, sexuality, weight, height, hair loss, going gray. People suffer from one thing or another. And I've said this before in other ones. People need to accept others for who they are. If you don't like it, that's fine. Don't like it. It doesn't affect you. You know, it doesn't affect you if your next door neighbors are gay. It's not like they're doing their things out on the front porch or in their backyard for all to see. It's not going to corrupt your children. Seeing two girls holding hands is not going to make your child gay. Seeing two guys kiss in the park is not going to make your child gay. Seeing a transgender person that you clearly know is transgender is not going to make your child want to do that. It's something that you just need to learn. Sorry about that. I love when I'm recording and people just keep talking. It doesn't help with my train of thought. I lose it. But we need to try to learn to accept people for who they are. I used to be a hateful person and angry all the time. And that's changed as I've gotten older. because that hate and anger fills your soul and it hurts you. It just fills you up inside, and that's not good. You know, I've learned recently that Nebraska somehow is in the top, I'm going to say top 10 because multiple sources said between top 1 and top 10 of the most hate groups in America per capita. And it wasn't just for black or Hispanic or religion or anything. I mean, it's also hate groups toward gays or transgender. And it doesn't affect you, people. You know, if you're listening to this and you hate transgender, it doesn't affect you. You know, it doesn't affect you, so why worry about it? Don't even get me started about the abortion issue, because they'll get me a lot of hate crime or a lot of hate mail anyway. So, you know, as doing YouTube and having this as a place for me to voice my thoughts, I don't understand all the hate. I've never hated people for who they are racially. Why should I hate a person for who they are sexually or genderly? You know, I want to understand. I don't understand non-binary. I don't understand all those different terminologies. But I'd like to understand it. And I'm open to understand it. But I'm not going to say you can't be that. And if you are listening to me right now and think, oh no, I don't like that stuff. Well, you know what? Just be open. How would you feel if people told you that you couldn't be the way you are? You know, okay, I don't like people with gray beards, so you got to shave your beard. Okay, well then, I shave my beard, and this is what you're going to see from now on. You know, you can't do that. You got to understand. Just because you don't like it doesn't really matter. So, I've taken up enough of your time. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Live, laugh, love. Peace, and spread that good karma and do something nice for people. Say something nice to a person. I did today. Just out of the blue. Why don't you do it? I feel good about it. I feel good because I said something to some stranger that was something nice and watched them light up with happiness. So, if more people did that, we'd be a better place. See you next time. Love y'all.